The drama continues. I want you to hear this again. Tuesday, he was on his regular appearance with Pat McAfee, answering a variety of questions about his future, whether that be in Green Bay or elsewhere. Here's what he said.
If they felt like it was in the best interest of the team to move forward, so be it. That wouldn't offend me. That wouldn't make me feel like a victim. I wouldn't have any animosity towards the team. I have a lot of love for what's going on in Green Bay, and I'd love to finish there. I would, and I might have finished there. Who knows? But what's the old adage? That people want to say, "Oh, the grass isn't always greener," on the other side. And I always say, the grass is green where you water it.
So where's he going to water his grass is the question about Aaron Rodgers. Look, there are three ways this can go.
Yeah.
He can retire.
No.
Which would leave a lot of money. Right? Every player I have up here says
Bart won't let him retire.
$58 million. He's got a lot of reasons.
We need him too much.
So then the next one is he comes back and plays in Green Bay and everything is generally normal. Or he decides, or they decide mutually, that it is best for them to part ways and we start figuring out where else he can go. That is a possibility. If that is the case, how do you see that playing out? Obviously, a lot of people have their eyes on your old team and my favorite.
Well, I just think that it's time to move on, right? They have to do a hard reset as well because listen, their core is getting older. He's already said he wants Bakhtiari to get paid. He wants Tunyon to get paid. You can't be the highest paid player and be the general manager at the same time. So listen, it's time to take your services where your mentor, your former leader went. Go with Brett Favre went. Come on to the New York Jets. And listen, I know it sounds old Bart's being a homer, but it's the perfect situation. And for the Jets, it makes a lot of sense because the only scenario in which they can save Zach Wilson. Allow Zach Wilson to sit on the bench for the next 2 years and learn. And when he gets his fifth-year option, you can make a determining factor if Zach Wilson has closed the gap. But you can give Aaron Rodgers everything he wants. You can sign back the area if you're Joe Douglas. You can also bring Tunyon. You need a blocking tight end. You can bring him over as well.
What you just saw was the New York Post making that case, and I will just say this quickly. Whether or not it saves Zach Wilson is the least of my concerns. The Jets are in that window you're talking about. They have a ton of
cheap talent.
They have all this cheap talent. They can afford a $58 million star quarterback. Does it make sense, Ninko?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. And then also, too, if you're Aaron Rodgers, you have to start thinking about, sure, yeah, my legacy is pretty much cemented. But how do you become legendary? That would be to go somewhere else and win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine?
Like taking a Cubs to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Could you imagine if Aaron Rodgers came to New York and won a Super Bowl for the Jets? Like, could you imagine? You would forever be indebted to Aaron Rodgers. You can invite him over any time of the week. Come on over. I got a meal for you.
He can have my home. He can live in my house if he wants to.
You're moving the pod.
Joe Namath remains one of the most famous people in football history for winning a Super Bowl with the New York Jets. Now, there were extenuating circumstances around that game. You made the point about Favre coming once upon a time. Look, Dan, I made this point yesterday. That the people say, oh, to see Rodgers in a different uniform would be so jarring. The reality is, if he finishes his career and only plays for one team, he'd be the exception, not the rule. Joe Montana, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, all these guys. The very, very few of the Johnny Unitas played on multiple teams. Very few of the all-time great quarterbacks only played their careers in one spot.
What's interesting to me is he always said he wanted to do that, and he gained control over that situation with what happened the last couple of years, winning MVPs and getting this new contract. So if he wants to finish his career in Green Bay, as he has always said he did, he can do that.
Right.
But
the way he's talking.
But they may not want him to finish his career. It may be best for them to cash in. And listen, Joe Douglas has been a part of this. I was a part of this same exact scenario in Baltimore. We got Steve McNair June 2nd, and we were a team that had a great defense. We drafted Kyle Bowler. He wasn't the answer. So we decided that we had to move on and give this core of players we had before they got paid an opportunity to win a Super Bowl. And we only went 13-3 and was the number one team in the AFC. Unfortunately, we lost to Peyton Manning after the
What do we know about what the Packers want? And when will we know? How will this thing play out? Give me the roadmap.
They want to know what he wants. And once they know what he wants, then they'll proceed accordingly. And they have said publicly that this is up to him. They would like to have him back. So it's up to him to decide what.
Well, and so there you have this thing, because they're saying they want to know what he wants. He's saying, I want to know what you're going to do before I decide what I want.
This is third off season in the row. We've been through this where each side wants to make sure that everybody knows, oh, it's not us, it's the other. So, yes, it'll work itself out. But the key thing that has to happen is he has to decide what he wants to do. Everything else works off of that.
I ask for so little.
Go to the TP.
I have so little. I ask for so little. Give me Aaron Rodgers. Just please. Again, I've had so little in my life as a fan. This is what I want to have happen. We'll see if they can do it. Hockey tonight. Boston continues its chase for history. The Bruins, who are trying to finish with the best record in the history of the league, will visit the Lightning. You'll see the puck drop at 7 Eastern. So he made that point, and it was tweeted, right? This is up on Twitter. Micah Parsons quote tweeted it and wrote, "Besides Mahomes, every team in the Final Four's quarterback is on a rookie deal and surrounded by talent. Interesting take." And so the entire world, sort of in unison, said, he's taking a shot at Dak. And so a little while later, Parsons said, "No, I'm not. Listen, we're not going to sit here like I'm talking about Dak. When I get paid, I want a big contract too. Come on, stop reaching." Doesn't feel like we're reaching.
Reach?
It's certainly not a reach. Whether he thought of it or not, it is most certainly not a reach, Dan Graziano.
He doesn't say what he was talking about. That's the thing, right? If you're not talking about Dak, fine, but what did you mean? Look, this is the world we live in, right? And social media, and everybody's got a voice, and everybody feels like their opinion and their voice has to be heard on every single topic, no matter what it was. But I would not feel like I was reaching if I was Dak Prescott and I was taking that as a shot. I mean, it just feels like you just got eliminated. Yeah. You're looking at everybody else who's still in the playoffs, and you say that based on what Brandon Beane said.
And it doesn't make it wrong.
This is also on the heels. No, it is. But look, it's also on the heels of after the game, Parsons basically saying, I'm paraphrasing now, defense played well enough to win. Right? I mean, he basically said that. So that's twice this week that he didn't take a shot at Dak Prescott. What do you think it all adds up to?
Listen, it's a reality. And I think they have to start thinking about what Dak's future is, and they have to go out and, I think, draft a young quarterback. Remember, the same way you got him is the same way you lose him. So Dak Prescott got his opportunity because he was able to step into a roster that was pretty good, and Tony Romo was on the end of his contract on a big deal. So what happened is he became cheap. And so he became the alternative so that they can stack the deck. We talk about it all the time. And I was the master. Every team I was on that had success, stack the deck, right? When you say, Bart, what do you mean stack the deck? When I have a cheap quarterback, that means every other position I can go out and I can fill it with great players that are already proven. When I came here, we had Alan Faneca, Damon Woody, myself, Jason Taylor, Trevor Price. These are all people we went out and spent top dollar for. The problem is it's not sustainable. So it's two ways to win in this league. You either win with a young quarterback and a stacked deck, or you have a guy that can overcome not having a deep roster. Peyton Manning used to do it all the time. What the beauty was about Tom Brady was they could stack the deck a little bit because he wouldn't take the top of the market money. So this is the reality of it.
The point you're making is that Dak Prescott is not one of the players, like maybe Patrick Mahomes is and others, who can overcome.
So the issue is, in this league too often, we confuse good with star with superstar. It is only 3 superstar quarterbacks in this league. It's Allen, Burrow, and Mahomes. Everybody else are to a certain extent, is a product of a system. Jalen Hurts is not a superstar. And if Philadelphia decides to pay him like he's a superstar, you have to capitalize.